I watched my mother walk past me for the third time, carrying plates of food to my sister Vanessa, and I felt something inside me finally snap. My name is Claire Whitmore. I'm 31 years old, and I've spent my entire life being the forgotten daughter. It was Sunday dinner at what everyone still called Mom's house, even though I'd been paying the mortgage for the past 6 years. The dining room was full. Mom, my sister Vanessa with her husband Todd and their 2 kids, and me. Just me. No husband, no kids, no one to make me worthy of attention in my mother's eyes. "Vanessa, honey, I made your favorite pot roast with those little potatoes you love," Mom said, setting down a heaping plate in front of my sister. "And I got that expensive cheese you mentioned wanting to try. It's in the brie on the counter." Vanessa smiled, that perfect smile that had charmed everyone our whole lives. "Thanks, Mom. You always remember." I sat at my place at the table, my plate still empty. Mom walked right past me again, heading back to the kitchen. "Mom," I called out, "should I just serve myself?" She didn't even turn around. "There's plenty in the kitchen, Claire. You know where everything is." Of course I did. I'd renovated that kitchen 3 years ago. Paid for every cabinet, every appliance, every tile. But nobody mentioned that. I got up and served myself, listening to the conversation flowing around the table. Vanessa was talking about her latest interior design project, a beach house in Malibu for some tech executive. Todd chimed in about his promotion at the law firm. Their kids, Mason and Lily, were the perfect accessories to their perfect life. "Claire, you're so quiet," Vanessa said when I returned to the table. "Everything okay at the hospital?" I was a nurse practitioner at County General, working 60-hour weeks in the ER. "It's fine. Busy." "Still doing that?" Mom asked. And there was something in her tone that made it sound like nursing was a hobby I should have outgrown by now. "It's my career, Mom." "Well, yes, but..." She looked at Vanessa meaningfully. "Your sister has managed to balance her career with family. I just worry that you're letting life pass you by." There it was. The constant comparison. The implication that my life was somehow less than because I wasn't married, didn't have kids, hadn't achieved the picture-perfect existence that Vanessa embodied. What my mother didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the only reason Vanessa had her perfect life was because I'd been supporting it from the shadows for years. "Actually, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to everyone about something," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "Not now, dear," Mom interrupted. "Vanessa was just about to tell us about the Malibu project. Go ahead, honey." And just like that, I was dismissed. Vanessa launched into her story, and I sat there, invisible again, eating food in a house I owned. At a table I'd bought, surrounded by a family that barely acknowledged my existence. After dinner, while Vanessa's kids played in the living room and the adults had coffee, I started clearing the table. Mom was showing Vanessa paint swatches for the guest room she wanted to redecorate. "Claire, be careful with those plates," Mom called out. "They're the good china. The good china I'd bought her for Christmas 2 years ago." I carried the dishes to the kitchen, and Todd followed me in with his coffee cup. "You okay, Claire?" he asked quietly. Todd had always been kinder to me than the rest of them. "You seem tense tonight." "Just tired," I said, loading the dishwasher, the one I'd installed. "Listen, I know it's not easy," Todd said, lowering his voice. "The way your mom focuses on Vanessa. It's not fair. You noticed? Everyone notices. They just don't say anything." He hesitated. "For what it's worth, you're doing great. The work you do at the hospital, taking care of your mom, it matters, even if they don't always show appreciation." I looked at Todd, really looked at him, and saw genuine sympathy in his eyes. It almost made it worse, knowing that even he could see how poorly I was treated. "Thanks, Todd." After he left, I stood alone in the kitchen, looking around at everything I'd built, everything I'd paid for, everything I'd sacrificed. The renovated kitchen, the new roof I'd put on last year, the HVAC system I'd replaced when Mom complained about being cold, the property taxes I paid every quarter. This was my house, legally completely mine. I'd bought it from Mom 6 years ago when she was drowning in debt after Dad died, and she'd been about to lose it to foreclosure, and I'd stepped in, taking out a massive loan to purchase it outright. We'd agreed she could live here rent-free for the rest of her life, and I'd never asked for anything in return. But the deed had my name on it. The mortgage was in my name. Every bill, every improvement, every dollar spent, it all came from me, and they treated me like I was nothing. I heard laughter from the dining room, Vanessa's bright, musical laugh that had always come so easily to her. Mom's responding chuckle full of warmth and affection I rarely heard directed at me. Something in me shifted. I was done. I pulled out my phone and texted my lawyer, Rachel Chun. We'd been friends since college, and she'd handled the property purchase for me years ago. *, need to talk. Can we meet tomorrow? *, her response came quickly. *, of course. Everything okay? *, no. But it will be. Asterisk. I walked back into the dining room where Mom was pouring Vanessa another cup of coffee while completely ignoring my empty cup. "Mom," I said, my voice cutting through their conversation. "I need to talk to you about the house." "Not now, Claire," Mom said dismissively. "Vanessa and I are discussing her ideas for the guest room makeover. It's important. It can wait until tomorrow. Call me during the week." I looked at my mother, at her perfectly styled gray hair, her designer sweater that I'd bought her for her birthday, her dismissive expression that told me I was an inconvenience in my own house. "Fine," I said quietly. "We'll talk this week." As I gathered my purse to leave, Vanessa caught my arm. "You're leaving already? It's only 8. I have an early shift tomorrow." "You always have an early shift," she said, and there was something almost accusatory in her tone, as if my work schedule was a personal failing. I drove home to my small apartment across town, the place I'd moved to after buying Mom's house because living there, being invisible in my own home, had become unbearable. My apartment was modest, nothing like Vanessa's sprawling house in the nice part of town, but it was mine, my sanctuary from the constant comparisons and dismissals. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my small balcony, looking out at the city lights. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Mom's really excited about redoing the guest room. Thanks for not making a fuss about whatever you wanted to talk about. You know how she gets when there's tension." I stared at the message, anger bubbling up inside me. Thanks for not making a fuss, as if my concerns, my needs, my very existence was just a potential fuss to be avoided. I thought about all the times I'd swallowed my words, all the moments I'd been overlooked, all the years I'd poured my money and my heart into supporting a family that barely acknowledged me. The guest room Mom wanted to redecorate? I'd paid to have it painted last year. The furniture Vanessa thought was so charming. I'd bought it. The house they all gathered in every Sunday, the home they considered the heart of our family. Mine. And they didn't even know it. Tomorrow, I would meet with Rachel, and I would start the process of making them see me. Really see me, because I was done being invisible. I was done being the daughter who didn't matter. And if they couldn't appreciate what I'd done for them voluntarily, maybe they needed to understand what life would look like without me. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Vanessa. Also, Mom mentioned she wants to knock out the wall between the kitchen and dining room. Make it more open concept. I think it's a great idea. We should talk about it next Sunday. They wanted to knock out a wall. In my house. Without even asking me, I looked at the wine in my glass, then set it down. I needed a clear head for what was coming, because next Sunday, I wouldn't be bringing wine or flowers or the homemade desserts Mom never thanked me for. Next Sunday, I would be bringing something else entirely, an eviction notice. Monday morning found me in Rachel Chun's office in downtown Portland. Her firm occupied the 20th floor of a glass tower, with views of the Willamette River and Mount Hood in the distance. Rachel had done well for herself since law school partner at 35, specializing in real estate and family law. We'd stayed close over the years, and she was one of the few people who knew the full extent of what I'd sacrificed for my family. "Claire," she greeted me, her sharp eyes immediately noting my tension. "You sounded upset in your text. What's going on?" I sat down in her office, surrounded by her diplomas and accolades, and suddenly felt exhausted. "I need to evict my mother." Rachel's eyebrows shot up. "From the house you bought?" "Yes." She leaned back in her chair, studying me. "Okay. Walk me through what happened." I told her about Sunday dinner. About being ignored, dismissed, treated like an afterthought in my own house. About Vanessa wanting to knock out walls without asking me. About 6 years of paying for everything while being treated like nothing. "And the final straw was your mom not serving you dinner?" Rachel asked, not unkindly. "I know it sounds petty. It doesn't sound petty, Claire. It sounds like the culmination of years of being disrespected. But I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." I nodded. "Is this really about the dinner? Or is this about finally standing up for yourself after years of being treated as less than?" The question hit me hard. Both. Neither. I don't know, Rachel. All I know is that I can't keep doing this. I can't keep being invisible. I can't keep funding their lives while they treat me like an inconvenience. Rachel pulled out my file, I realized. She'd kept all the documents from the house purchase. "Let's review what we're dealing with," she said, opening the folder. "You purchased the property at 2847 Maple Drive 6 years ago for $385,000. You took out a mortgage for $350,000. Put down $35,000 cash. Your mother signed over the deed in exchange for debt relief and a verbal agreement that she could live there rent-free for life. Right. But Claire, we talked about this at the time. A verbal agreement isn't legally binding for real estate matters. In Oregon, any agreement regarding property needs to be in writing to be enforceable. My heart sank. So she has rights to stay there? No, that's not what I'm saying. The house is legally yours. You can evict her. But morally and emotionally, this is complicated. You made her a promise she doesn't even know I kept. The words burst out of me. She thinks she still owns that house, Rachel. She has no idea I bought it. She has no idea I've been paying for everything. She thinks she's still the matriarch, presiding over her domain, when the truth is, she's living in my house on my dime, and she can't even be bothered to put food on my plate. Rachel was quiet for a moment. She doesn't know? Claire, how is that possible? Because I never told her. When I bought the house, I set it up so the bills still came in her name, forwarded to me. I paid everything quietly. I didn't want to embarrass her, didn't want her to feel like she'd lost her independence. I thought, I laughed bitterly. I thought she'd appreciate it. I thought if I took care of everything without making a big deal about it, she'd see how much I cared. But instead, she just took it for granted. Worse, she doesn't even know there's anything to take for granted. She thinks the house is still hers. She thinks she's the one providing us with a gathering place, when really, I'm providing her with a home. Rachel pulled out a legal pad and started taking notes. Okay, let's talk about your options. First, the nuclear option, formal eviction. In Oregon, you can evict a family member just like any other tenant. You'd need to provide 60 days notice since she's lived there more than a year. But Claire, this will destroy your relationship with your family. What relationship? I asked bitterly. The one where they ignore me? Where Vanessa is the golden child and I'm the unmarried nurse who's letting life pass her by? Fair point. Option 2. You tell your mother the truth about who owns the house and set boundaries. You let her stay, but you make it clear that you're the owner and you have final say in all decisions. You start charging rent or requiring her to contribute to expenses. She'll never agree to that. You don't know my mother, Rachel. In her mind, Vanessa can do no wrong, and I'm perpetually disappointing. If I tell her I own the house, she'll find a way to make it about how I manipulated her or embarrassed her. She'll make me the villain. Then she'll make you the villain, Rachel said firmly. But at least it will be based on truth instead of her delusions. Claire, you've been living a lie for 6 years. You've been enabling her to disrespect you by hiding the reality of the situation. Maybe it's time for everyone to face the truth. I thought about that. About Sunday dinners where I was invisible. About Vanessa's casual assumption that she could redesign my house. About Mom's constant disappointment in me, even as I literally kept a roof over her head. What would an eviction look like? I asked. Rachel flipped through her notes. I draft a formal notice to terminate tenancy. In Oregon, for a month-to-month tenancy, which is essentially what your mother has, even without a written agreement, you need to provide 60 days notice. The notice would state that the tenancy will end on a specific date, and that she needs to vacate the property by then. And if she doesn't leave, then you file an eviction lawsuit with the court. It's called a forcible entry and detainer action. But it rarely gets that far. Most people leave once they realize you're serious. Would I have to give a reason? No. Oregon is pretty landlord-friendly for no-cause evictions, though that's been changing. But, as the property owner, you have the right to reclaim your property for your own use. You don't need to prove she did anything wrong. I imagined serving my mother with an eviction notice. Imagined her shock, her anger, her inevitable playing of the victim. Imagined Vanessa rallying to her defense, painting me as cruel and heartless. There's a third option, Rachel said quietly. What? You sell the house. Take your equity and walk away. Let your mother and sister figure out their own living situation. You've been carrying them for 6 years, Claire. Maybe it's time to let them stand on their own. The idea was tempting. Just ... walking away. No more Sunday dinners, no more being invisible, no more funding their lives while being treated like nothing. But the house had been in our family for 30 years. Dad had bought it when Vanessa and I were kids. Some of my few happy childhood memories were tied to that place. I don't want to sell, I said. That house is mine. I paid for it, I've maintained it, I've improved it. Why should I be the one to leave? Then don't leave. Evict your mother and move in yourself. It's your house, Claire. You have every right to live there. I pictured it, living in the house, making it truly mine, not hiding anymore. No more small apartment, no more pretending, just me in my house, living my life openly. How long would the whole process take? I asked. If we move quickly, we could have the notice drafted and ready to serve by the end of the week. 60 days from service, so she'd need to be out by mid-January. If she fights it, add another month or two for court proceedings. January. 2 months away. 2 more months of Sunday dinners, of being invisible, of watching them plan renovations to my house without my consent. Or I could skip this Sunday's dinner entirely. I could serve the notice and never walk into that toxic dynamic again. Do it, I said. Draft the eviction notice. Rachel studied me carefully. Claire, I need you to be absolutely sure about this. Once we serve this notice, there's no taking it back. Your family will know you own the house. They'll know you've been the one supporting them. And they will not react well, I know. They'll call you heartless. They'll say you're kicking your mother out of her home. Vanessa will probably never speak to you again. Good, I said, and meant it. Maybe it's time I stopped setting myself on fire to keep them warm. Rachel nodded slowly, then started typing on her computer. Okay, I'll have the notice ready by Thursday. How do you want to serve it? What are my options? Legally, you can do it yourself, have someone else do it, or hire a process server. Given the family dynamics, I'd recommend a process server. It's official, it's documented, and you don't have to be there for the initial reaction. I thought about Mom opening the door to find a stranger handing her eviction papers. It felt cold, impersonal, perfect. No, I said, I'll do it myself. I'll serve it at Sunday dinner. Rachel's eyes widened. Claire, are you sure? That's going to be ... dramatic? Brutal? Yeah, but they've been brutal to me for years. They just did it with smiles and dismissals instead of legal documents. At least this way I'm being honest. All right, Rachel said, respect in her voice. Then let's make sure we do this right. I'll include documentation proving your ownership, the payment records, everything, when you hand them that notice. There will be no room for argument about the facts. We spent the next hour going over details, the exact wording of the notice, the timeline, what to do if Mom refused to leave. Rachel explained that I'd need to document everything, keep records of all communications, be prepared for the possibility of court. One more thing, Rachel said as I was getting ready to leave. Have you thought about what you'll say when you serve the notice? I'm going to tell them the truth. That I own the house, that I've been paying for everything, that I'm done being invisible. Keep it short. Don't justify. Don't explain too much. You're the property owner exercising your legal rights. That's all they need to know. She paused. And Claire? Document everything that happens after you serve it. Every text, every phone call, every interaction. If this goes to court, you'll want a record. I left Rachel's office with a strange sense of calm. For the first time in 6 years, I was taking control of my own life. I wasn't hiding, wasn't accommodating, wasn't making myself smaller to avoid conflict. I was done being the invisible daughter. On Thursday, I picked up the eviction notice from Rachel's office. It was official, legal, cold. The document that would change everything. I kept it in my purse, feeling its weight like a bomb waiting to go off. Saturday night, I barely slept. I kept rehearsing what I would say, how I would stand, where I would be when I handed Mom the envelope. Sunday morning, I woke early and dressed carefully. Not in my usual casual clothes, but in a blazer and slacks. Professional, armored. The eviction notice sat in a manila envelope on my passenger seat as I drove to Maple Drive, my house, my property. The place I'd saved, maintained, and improved while being treated like an afterthought. Today, that ended. I parked in the driveway and sat for a moment, looking at the house. The new roof I'd paid for, the landscaping I'd hired, the fresh paint on the shutters, mine. I picked up the envelope and walked to the door. I didn't knock, it was my house. I walked right in. Mom was in the kitchen, already preparing dinner. Vanessa wasn't there yet. Perfect, Claire. Mom looked surprised. You're early. Dinner won't be ready for another hour. I'm not here for dinner. Mom, I need to talk to you about something important. She sighed, that familiar sound of exasperation she reserved for me. Can it wait? I'm in the middle of preparing the roast. No, it can't wait. Something in my tone made her turn around. She looked at Marily, looked at me, maybe for the first time in years. What's wrong? She asked. I pulled the envelope from my purse and held it out to her. What's this? Open it. She wiped her hands on her apron and took the envelope. I watched her face as she pulled out the notice, as her eyes scanned the legal language, as comprehension slowly dawned. This is an eviction notice, she said, her voice shocked. Some landlord is trying to evict me, but I own this house. No, Mom, I said calmly. You don't. I do. And just like that, everything changed. The color drained from Mom's face as she stared at the eviction notice, then at me, then back at the document in her trembling hands. What do you mean, you own this house? Her voice was barely a whisper. I bought it 6 years ago. You were 3 months from foreclosure after Dad died. The bank was going to take it, so I took out a loan and purchased it from you. That's not... I would remember... double quotes. She sank into one of the kitchen chairs I'd bought when I renovated. You're lying. I pulled out my phone and showed her the deed, the mortgage statements, the property tax records, all with my name on them. She scrolled through the documents, her face cycling through disbelief, shock, and finally anger. Why didn't you tell me? I did tell you. 6 years ago, when I proposed buying the house. You were so relieved someone was solving your problem that you didn't ask questions. You just signed the papers and moved on with your life. But all this time, I thought... She looked around the kitchen, seeing it differently now. The renovations, the new roof, the bills. I thought I was managing it all. No, Mom, I was managing it. I paid for everything, every single thing. And I never asked you for rent, never asked you to contribute, never even asked you to acknowledge it. Then why are you doing this now? Her shock was morphing into indignation. If you wanted me to know, you should have told me years ago. You can't just spring this on me. I'm doing this now because last Sunday, you couldn't even be bothered to serve me dinner. You walked past me 3 times to bring plates to Vanessa. And then you both started making plans to knock out walls in my house without even asking me. That's what this is about. Her voice rose. You're evicting me over a dinner slight? It's not about one dinner, Mom. It's about 31 years of being the daughter who doesn't matter. It's about watching you dote on Vanessa while treating me like an inconvenience. It's about 6 years of funding your life while you remain oblivious to everything I've done for you. The front door opened. Vanessa's voice called out, Mom, we're here. Footsteps. Then she appeared in the kitchen doorway with Todd and the kids trailing behind her. Oh, Claire, you're early. What's... She stopped, seeing Mom's face. What's going on? Mom thrust the eviction notice at her. Your sister is kicking me out of my house. Vanessa snatched the paper, her eyes widening as she read. What the hell, Claire? What is this? It's exactly what it says. A 60-day notice to vacate the property. You can't evict Mom from her own house. It's not her house, Vanessa. It's mine. I bought it 6 years ago. Todd moved to his wife's side, reading over her shoulder. I saw understanding dawn on his face. He'd always been the smart one. Claire owns the house? Vanessa's voice was shrill. Since when? Since Dad died and Mom was about to lose it to foreclosure. I stepped in, took out a massive loan and saved it. You were too busy with your new design business to notice Mom was drowning in debt. That's not fair, Vanessa shot back. I was building my career, and I was working 60-hour weeks at the hospital while using every spare dollar to keep this place afloat. While you were living your perfect life, I was sacrificing mine to save Mom's house. If you bought it, why didn't you say anything? Vanessa demanded. Because I thought if I just took care of things quietly, you'd all see how much I cared. But you didn't see anything. You just kept treating me like the disappointing daughter who couldn't get her life together. Mom found her voice again. This is absurd. You can't just decide to evict me because you're feeling unappreciated. I'm your mother, and this is my house. A house you've been living in rent-free for 6 years while treating me like I'm invisible. Invisible? Mom's laugh was bitter. You're being dramatic, Claire. Just because I focus on Vanessa doesn't mean... Last Sunday, you served everyone dinner but me. You walked past me 3 times. When I asked if I should serve myself, you barely acknowledged me. I was busy. And you're perfectly capable of getting your own food. It's not about the food, Mom. It's about respect. It's about acknowledgement. It's about basic human decency. Todd spoke up quietly. Mrs. Whitmore, Claire has a point. I've watched how you treat her at these dinners. It's not right. Stay out of this, Todd, Vanessa snapped. Then to me. So your solution is to make our mother homeless? What kind of daughter does that? It's the kind who's tired of being used. The kind who's finally standing up for herself. You're being selfish and vindictive, Vanessa said. This is cruel, Claire, is it? I pulled out my phone again, showing them the financial records. Let me show you what's cruel. This is what I've spent on this house in 6 years. $280,000 in mortgage payments, $45,000 in renovations, $12,000 in property taxes, $18,000 in maintenance and repairs. That's $355,000, Vanessa. Over $300,000 I've poured into this house while working exhausting hours at the hospital. And not once, not one single time, has either of you thanked me or even acknowledged it. Mom stared at the numbers, her face pale. I didn't know, That's the problem, Mom. You didn't know because you never asked. You never wondered how the bills got paid or how the house stayed maintained. You just assumed it was all taken care of like magic. But you never told me. Mom's voice broke. How was I supposed to know if you didn't tell me? I shouldn't have had to tell you. You should have noticed. You should have wondered. You should have cared enough about your daughter's life to ask questions. Vanessa was looking at the financial records on my phone, her expression shifting from anger to something else. Guilt, maybe, or shame. Claire, I had no idea you were carrying all this. Of course you didn't. You were too busy being the favorite to notice what it was costing me to support everyone. That's not fair, isn't it? When's the last time you asked about my life, Vanessa? When's the last time you asked if I was okay, if I needed anything, if I was happy? When have you ever seen me as anything other than boring Claire who works at the hospital? She didn't answer. Mason and Lily had been watching this whole exchange with wide, frightened eyes. Todd gently ushered them toward the living room. Kids, why don't you go play with the toys Grandma keeps for you? After they left, Mom sat down heavily at the table. So what? You're just going to throw me out on the street? You're in 60 days to find somewhere else to live? That's more than fair. Fair? Her voice rose again. Nothing about this is fair. This is my home. Your father and I bought this house 30 years ago. We raised you girls here, and I saved it when you couldn't. I have every legal right to reclaim my property. Legal rights, she spat. Is that all that matters to you? What about family? What about love? What about it, Mom? Where was the love when you ignored me at dinner? Where was the family when you and Vanessa made plans for my house without including me? Vanessa pulled out her phone. I'm calling Dad's lawyer. This can't be legal. Call whoever you want, I said. The paperwork is airtight. I own this house, and I have the right to evict tenants. Even family. Todd returned from the living room, his expression troubled. Claire, can we talk privately for a minute? I followed him out to the porch. The November air was cold, but I welcomed it after the heated confrontation inside. I'm not trying to change your mind, Todd said quietly. I just want to make sure you've thought this through. I have. This is going to tear your family apart. My family was already torn apart, Todd. It's just been hidden under the surface. I've been tearing myself apart trying to hold it together and nobody noticed. He nodded slowly. I get it, I really do. And for what it's worth, I think you have every right to be angry. But Claire, is this really what you want? Permanent estrangement from your mother and sister? What I want is to be seen, to be valued, to matter. And if the only way to make that happen is to stop enabling their delusions, then yes, this is what I want. Where will your mom go? That's not my problem to solve. For once in my life, I'm not going to sacrifice my own well-being to fix everyone else's problems. Todd was quiet for a moment. Okay, then I respect your decision. He paused. For what it's worth, Vanessa and I have a guest house. If it comes to it, your mom could stay there temporarily. The offer surprised me. You'd do that. She's still my mother-in-law. And ... quotes. He hesitated. I've watched how they treat you, Claire. I've wanted to say something for years. Maybe this is the wake-up call they need. We went back inside. Mom was crying now, and Vanessa had her arm around her shoulders, shooting daggers at me with her eyes. How could you do this to her? Vanessa demanded. She's your mother, and I'm her daughter. A daughter who's been supporting her for 6 years while being treated like an afterthought. We'll fight this, Vanessa said. We'll get a lawyer. We'll prove you manipulated her into signing over the house when she was vulnerable. Go ahead, I said calmly. You'll lose. I have all the documentation, all the financial records, everything. The sale was legitimate, and she signed willingly. You can't undo it just because you don't like the outcome. Mom looked up at me, mascara running down her face. I can't believe you're doing this. What would your father say? The mention of Dad hit me hard, but I didn't let it show. Dad would probably ask why you never noticed your daughter was drowning trying to save you. He would probably wonder why you never thought to thank me or acknowledge what I was doing. Your father loved this house, and I saved it. I preserved his legacy when you were about to lose it. But you can't even acknowledge that, can you? Even now, with the evidence right in front of you, you're making yourself the victim. I am the victim. You're kicking me out of my home. It's my home, Mom. Mine. I've paid for it, I've maintained it, and I have every right to live in it myself, or do whatever I want with it. Vanessa stood up, her face cold. If you go through with this, don't expect me to ever speak to you again. I'll survive, I said, even though the words hurt. Despite everything, Vanessa was still my sister, but I couldn't keep setting myself on fire to keep her warm. You're making a huge mistake, Vanessa continued. You're going to end up alone, Claire. No family, no husband, no kids. Just you and this big, empty house that you had to steal from your own mother. I didn't steal anything. I bought it. And maybe I will end up alone, but at least I'll be alone with my self-respect intact. I picked up my purse. The notice is legal and enforceable. You have 60 days from today to vacate the property. I suggest you start looking for a new place. Wait, Mom said, her voice desperate now. Can't we work something out? I'll pay rent. I'll contribute to expenses. It's too late for that, Mom. You had 6 years to be a decent mother, to acknowledge what I was doing, to treat me with basic respect. This isn't about money. It's about dignity. Please, Claire, don't do this. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and felt a pang of sadness beneath the anger. This woman had raised me, had been there for school plays and graduations, had loved me in her own limited way. But she'd also made me feel invisible, worthless, less than, and I couldn't do it anymore. I'm sorry, Mom. But my decision is final. I walked out of the house, my house and God in my car. As I drove away, I could see them through the window. Mom crying at the table, Vanessa on the phone, probably calling lawyers, Todd standing helplessly by. My phone started buzzing before I even made it to the main road. Vanessa calling. I declined it. A text came through. Asterisk, how could you do this to our mother? Asterisk, then another. Asterisk, you're dead to me. Asterisk, and another. Asterisk, I hope you're happy being alone in that house with no family who loves you. Asterisk. I turned my phone to silent and kept driving. Back at my apartment, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, shaking slightly from the adrenaline crash. I'd done it. I'd actually served the eviction notice. There was no taking it back now. My phone lit up with dozens of messages from Vanessa, from Mom's friends, even from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. The family network was mobilizing against me. Only one message mattered, though, from Todd. Asterisk, I know this isn't easy, but you did what you needed to do. Don't let them make you doubt yourself. Asterisk, I texted back. Asterisk, thank you. Asterisk, as the sun set over Portland, I sat alone with my wine and my decision. I'd blown up my family. I'd burned bridges that might never be rebuilt. I'd chosen my own well-being over keeping the peace. And for the first time in my entire life, I felt free. The first week after serving the eviction notice was hell. Monday morning, I woke up to find my car keyed in the apartment parking lot. Long, deliberate scratches down both sides. No note, no witnesses, but I knew. The security cameras had conveniently been malfunctioning that night, according to the building manager. I filed a police report anyway. Documentation, like Rachel had said. At the hospital, whispers followed me through the halls. My mother had apparently called my Aunt Linda, who'd called her daughter Jessica, who worked in radiology at County General. The story had spread like wildfire. Claire Whitmore, the cold-hearted nurse who was evicting her own mother. Jessica cornered me in the break room on Tuesday. How could you, Claire? Your own mother? You don't know the full story. I know enough. Mom told me everything. You bought your mother's house when she was vulnerable, and now you're throwing her out. That's disgusting. I saved her from foreclosure by taking advantage of her grief. Your dad had just died. I wanted to explain, to defend myself, but what was the point? People believed what they wanted to believe, and the narrative of the cruel daughter evicting her poor mother was so much more compelling than the truth. I ate my lunch alone that day, and the next, and the next. Wednesday, my supervisor, Dr. Patricia Reeves, called me into her office. My stomach dropped. The family drama followed me here too. Claire, sit down, she said, her expression unreadable. I've been hearing some ... concerning things. About my personal life. Yes, normally I wouldn't involve myself in staff personal matters. But when it starts affecting workplace dynamics ... double quotes, she sighed. Several staff members have expressed discomfort working with you because of rumors about my family situation, because they're questioning your character. If you could evict your own mother, what else might you be capable of? The unfairness of it hit me like a physical blow. Dr. Reeves, it's more complicated than I'm sure it is, and I'm not making any judgments, Claire. Your work here has always been exemplary. But I need to know if this situation is going to impact your ability to do your job. It won't. Because if you need some time off to handle family matters, I don't need time off. I need people to stay out of my personal business. Dr. Reeves studied me for a long moment. All right. But Claire, if this escalates, if it starts affecting patient care or staff morale, we'll need to revisit this conversation. I left her office feeling like the walls were closing in. My family had always made me feel small, but now that feeling was spreading to every corner of my life. Thursday evening, I came home to find Vanessa sitting in her car outside my apartment building. When she saw me pull in, she got out. We need to talk, she said. I have nothing to say to you. Well, I have plenty to say to you. She followed me toward the building entrance. Mom's a mess, Claire. She's barely eating, barely sleeping. This is killing her. She has 60 days to find a new place. That's generous. Generous? You're destroying her. I stopped and turned to face my sister. In the parking lot lights, I could see she'd been crying. Despite everything, it tugged at something in me. Vanessa, I didn't want it to come to this. Then don't go through with it. Take back the eviction. We can work something out, set up a payment plan, anything. It's not about money. Then what is it about? Revenge? Making Mom suffer because you felt left out? It's about respect, I said quietly. It's about being seen. It's about 31 years of being the invisible daughter finally saying enough is enough. You're not invisible, Claire. That's in your head, is it? When's the last time Mom asked about my life? When's the last time you did? Vanessa's mouth opened, then closed. We talk, ... We exchange pleasantries. You tell me about your projects and your kids, and I listen. But when have you ever asked about my work, about my dreams, about whether I'm happy? You never seem to want to talk about those things. I stopped trying because every time I did, I got dismissed or ignored or compared to you. I felt tears threatening, but pushed them back. You know what it's like, Vanessa, growing up in the shadow of someone who was prettier, more charming, more successful at everything. That's not my fault, I'm not saying it is, but it is Mom's fault that she made it worse. That she put you on a pedestal and treated me like I was defective for not being you. Vanessa was crying now too. I never asked for that. I never wanted Mom to treat you differently, but you benefited from it. And you never once stood up for me. I didn't know it was that bad. You didn't want to know. It was easier not to see it. We stood there in the cold November air, years of unspoken hurt hanging between us. If you go through with this, Vanessa said finally, Mom will never forgive you. I'll never forgive you. You'll lose your entire family. I've already lost them, I said. I just didn't realize it until now. I walked into my building, leaving my sister standing in the parking lot. Friday, Rachel called with an update. Your mother's hired a lawyer, Gerald Kingston. Is that bad? He's aggressive and expensive. They're going to fight this, Claire. Are you prepared for that? What can they possibly fight? I own the house. They're arguing that you exerted undue influence over your mother when she was in a vulnerable state after your father's death. That you manipulated her into signing over the property. Anger flashed through me. That's bullshit. She was 3 months from foreclosure. I saved her, I know. And we have all the documentation to prove the sale was legitimate. But it's going to be messy, and it's going to be expensive. Legal fees could run into the tens of thousands. I thought about my savings, already depleted from years of supporting the house. How strong is their case? Weak. The sale was at fair market value. She signed willingly. There was no coercion. But they're going to drag this out, make it as painful as possible. Hope you'll cave. I won't cave. Good. Because they're also going for the sympathy angle. They've already talked to a local news station about doing a story on elderly homeowners being evicted by their children. My stomach dropped. They're going to the media? It looks that way. Claire, this is going to get worse before it gets better. Are you sure? I'm sure. But after I hung up, I wasn't sure at all. I sat in my apartment, looking around at my small, modest life, and wondered if I'd made a terrible mistake. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Asterisk, you should be ashamed of yourself. Asterisk. Then another. Asterisk, heartless bitch. Asterisk, and another. Asterisk, hope you die alone in that house you stole. Asterisk. Someone had posted my phone number on social media. The messages kept coming. Dozens of them, from strangers who knew nothing about my situation, except the story my family was telling. I turned off my phone and sat in the silence of my apartment, feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. Saturday morning, I forced myself to get up and go for a run. I needed to clear my head, needed to remember why I'd done this. As I ran through the Portland streets, I thought about the past 6 years, the sacrifices I'd made, the quiet heroism that nobody noticed, the slow erosion of my self-worth as I kept giving and giving while receiving nothing in return. I thought about Sunday dinners where I was invisible, about Vanessa's casual assumption that she could redesign my house, about Mom's constant disappointment in my unmarried, childless life. As I thought about that moment when I'd finally snapped, when I'd realized that no amount of sacrifice would ever be enough to earn their love and respect. By the time I got back to my apartment, I felt steadier, resolved. Rachel had been right. This was going to get worse. But I'd started this, and I was going to see it through. Sunday morning, I didn't go to Maple Drive. It was the first Sunday dinner I'd missed in 6 years. My phone, which I'd turned back on, immediately started buzzing. Mom calling. I declined it. A text from Vanessa. Asterisk, too cowardly to even show up. Asterisk, I texted back. Asterisk, I'm no longer welcome in my own house. Ironic, isn't it? Asterisk, instead of Sunday dinner, I met Rachel at her office. We needed to prepare for the legal battle ahead. Their lawyer filed a motion to dismiss the eviction, Rachel explained, showing me the paperwork. They're claiming improper service, which is ridiculous since you served it personally with a witness present. Todd was there. Exactly. And I've already filed our response. But Claire, there's something else we need to discuss. What, your mother's claiming financial hardship? She's saying that if she has to move, she'll end up homeless. She's asking for the media to do a piece on her plight. She won't be homeless. Vanessa and Todd have a guest house. Does the media know that? Because the story they're planning to run is daughter evicts elderly mother, leaves her destitute. I felt sick. How do we fight that? We tell the truth. We show the financial records proving you've been supporting her. We demonstrate that this isn't about cruelty. It's about a property owner reclaiming their own home. But Claire, it's going to mean going public with everything. All the years of being overlooked, all the money you spent, all of it. The idea of exposing our family dysfunction to the world was horrifying. But what choice did I have? Do it, I said. I'm done protecting their image at the expense of my truth. Monday evening, I was leaving the hospital and I saw them, a news van parked outside the main entrance. A reporter I recognized from the local news standing with a cameraman. My mother and Vanessa were there too. I tried to walk past them to my car, but the reporter called out, "Miss Whitmore, Claire Whitmore, can we get a statement from you?" I kept walking. "Miss Whitmore, your mother says you're evicting her from the family home. Is that true?" I stopped, turned. The camera was already rolling. Mom looked frail and pitiful, exactly the image they wanted. "The property in question is legally mine," I said carefully. "I have every right to reclaim it. But it's your mother's home," the reporter pressed, "where she's lived for 30 years. Don't you think forcing her out is cruel? I think the full story is more complicated than a soundbite can convey. Your mother says you took advantage of her vulnerability after your father's death to steal her house. How do you respond to that?" The word steal hung in the air. I looked at Mom, saw the tears on her face, the way she clutched Vanessa's arm for support. A perfect victim. "I didn't steal anything," I said, my voice hard now. "I saved that house from foreclosure. I've spent over $350,000 maintaining and improving it over 6 years. And I did it while being treated like I was invisible by the family I was supporting." "So this is about revenge?" the reporter asked. "This is about self-respect. Now, if you'll excuse me," I got in my car and drove away, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. The interview would air tonight, I was sure, and I'd look like the villain, no matter what I said. I was right. The segment ran on the 11 p.m. news. They used the worst possible clip of me looking angry and defensive, contrasted with footage of Mom crying about losing her home. The reporter's voiceover. "A Portland family torn apart over a house. Tonight we bring you the story of an elderly widow facing eviction at the hands of her own daughter." They didn't mention the foreclosure. They didn't mention the money I'd spent. They didn't mention anything that would complicate their narrative of the cruel daughter and the victimized mother. My phone exploded with messages. More strangers telling me I was heartless, evil, a disgrace. My social media was flooded with hate. And in the middle of all of it, one text from Todd. Asterisk, "I'm sorry, I tried to talk them out of going to the media. For what it's worth, I know the truth." Asterisk, I texted back. Asterisk, "Thank you. That actually means a lot." Asterisk, "Tuesday I walked into the hospital to find Dr. Reeves waiting for me at the nurse's station, my office. Now, my heart sank. This couldn't be good. In her office, she closed the door and turned to me with an expression I couldn't read. "Claire, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Did you save your mother's house from foreclosure 6 years ago?" "Yes." "And have you been paying all the expenses since then?" "Yes." "So the story on the news last night about you stealing her house, that's not accurate, not even close?" Dr. Reeves nodded slowly. "I thought so. I've known you for 8 years, Claire. You're one of the most dedicated, compassionate nurses I've ever worked with. The woman they portrayed on TV doesn't match the woman I know." I felt tears threatening. "Thank you for saying that. But I need you to understand something. The hospital is getting calls. Patients who saw the news are requesting different nurses. Staff members are uncomfortable. This is becoming a problem, I understand. Do you want my resignation? God, no. I want you to fight back. Tell your side of the story. Don't let them control the narrative." "How?" "Call that reporter back. Give them the full story. Show them the financial records. Make them understand that this isn't about cruelty. It's about a daughter who gave everything and got nothing in return, finally standing up for herself. They won't care. The story of the cruel daughter is better for ratings. Then find someone who will care. Write an op-ed. Post your story online. But don't go down without a fight, Claire. You deserve better than this." After I left her office, I sat in my car in the parking garage and thought about what she'd said. "Don't go down without a fight." I called Rachel. "I want to tell my story," I said. "All of it. I want the world to know the truth. Are you sure? Once you put it out there, you can't take it back, I'm sure. They've already painted me as the villain. I might as well be a villain who tells the truth. All right. I have a contact at the Portland Tribune. They do longer investigative pieces. If you're willing to talk to them to show them everything, it might give you a fair hearing. Set it up." That night I sat down and wrote out everything, every Sunday dinner where I was ignored, every dollar I'd spent, every sacrifice I'd made, every moment I'd felt invisible in my own family. The truth was ugly and painful and raw, but it was mine, and I was done hiding it. The Portland Tribune article ran 2 weeks later, and everything changed. The reporter, Sarah Mitchell, had done her homework. She'd interviewed me for hours, gone through all my financial records, even talked to people who'd witnessed the family dynamics over the years. Dr. Reeves had given a statement about my character. Rachel had provided legal documentation. Even old Mr. Chun from the hardware store had shared stories about how I'd quietly helped people in the community while never asking for recognition. The headline read, "The Invisible Daughter: How One Woman's Sacrifice Became Her Prison." It was a long piece, over 3,000 words, and it told the whole story. The foreclosure my mother had hidden from everyone. The massive loan I'd taken out to save the house. The renovations, the maintenance, the property taxes, all documented with receipts and bank statements. The Sunday dinners where I was overlooked. The plans made for my house without my input. And it included my mother's response, which Rachel had obtained through legal discovery. I didn't know Claire was paying for everything. She never told me. Sarah's article was fair but pointed. She wrote, "Patricia Whitmore's claim of ignorance raises troubling questions. In 6 years, did she never wonder who was paying her property taxes? Who was maintaining her home? Who was covering her utilities? At what point does willful ignorance become complicity?" The article went viral within hours of posting online. My phone, which I'd learned to keep on silent, lit up with notifications. But this time, they were different. Asterisk, "I'm so sorry you went through this." Asterisk, asterisk, "Your mother should be ashamed." Asterisk, asterisk, "You're brave for speaking out." Asterisk, asterisk, "This resonates so much. I'm also the forgotten daughter." Asterisk, hundreds of messages, then thousands from people who saw themselves in my story. Women who'd sacrificed for families that never appreciated them. People who'd been invisible in their own lives. The hate messages were still there. My mother and Vanessa had their defenders. But they were drowned out by an overwhelming wave of support. Wednesday morning, I woke up to find the article had been picked up by national news outlets. The Invisible Daughter was trending on social media. Podcasts were discussing it. Opinion pieces were being written about family dynamics and the invisible labor women perform. I'd become a symbol for something bigger than my own story. Thursday, Rachel called. Their lawyer wants to meet. They're ready to talk settlement. My heart raced. What kind of settlement? They want to drop the lawsuit contesting the eviction. In exchange, they're asking for more time, 90 days instead of 60, and they want you to cover moving expenses. Absolutely not. The 60-day notice stands, and I'm not paying for anything else. Claire, think about this. I've spent 6 years paying for everything. I'm done. They can accept the original terms, or we can go to court, where every detail of their exploitation will become public record. Rachel was quiet for a moment. You've changed. Have I? 2 weeks ago, you would have caved. You would have found a way to make it easier for them, even at your own expense. Now you're setting boundaries and holding firm. It's good to see. That evening I drove past Maple Drive, my house, and saw a for rent sign in the front yard of a house 3 doors down. Mom must have found a place in the neighborhood. Good for her. I didn't stop, didn't slow down, just kept driving. Friday, Vanessa showed up at my apartment again. But this time, she looked different, smaller somehow, less certain. "Can we talk?" she asked when I opened the door. I almost said no, almost closed the door in her face, but something in her expression stopped me. Fine. 5 minutes. We sat in my small living room, the silence awkward and heavy. "I read the article," Vanessa said finally. "All of it. And I talked to Dad's old accountant. He confirmed everything. The foreclosure, the sale, all of it." "So you believe me now?" "I always believed you, Claire. I just didn't want to accept it. Because accepting it means accepting that I was part of the problem." I waited. "I didn't know Mom was ignoring you at dinners," Vanessa continued. "I mean, I saw it happen, but I told myself you preferred to be independent, that you didn't need the attention. But that was a lie I told myself, so I didn't have to feel guilty about being the favorite. Why are you telling me this?" "Because I'm sorry." "I'm so sorry, Claire. You're right. I've benefited from Mom's favoritism, and I never stood up for you. I let you be invisible because it was easier than rocking the boat." Tears were rolling down her face now. "And then when you finally stood up for yourself, I attacked you. I called you heartless and cruel when really, you're the bravest person I know. I felt my own tears coming but tried to hold them back. You called me dead to you, Vanessa, I know, and I was wrong. I was protecting Mom because I didn't want to see the truth about how she'd treated you. But Claire, you gave up so much for us. You've worked yourself to exhaustion, spent all your money, sacrificed your own dreams, and we just took and never gave anything back. What about Mom? I asked. Is she sorry too? Vanessa looked down at her hands. Mom's struggling. She's still in denial about a lot of it. She's renting a place 2 streets over, but she's bitter. She keeps saying you turned your back on family. Of course she does, but Todd and I have been talking to her, making her see things differently. It's slow, but Claire, I think eventually she'll come around. She'll understand what she did wrong, and if she doesn't, then that's her loss. Because you deserve better than the way we've treated you. We sat in silence for a moment. The eviction still stands, I said. I'm not backing down on that. I know, and I understand. That house is yours. You earned it. What are you going to do with it? I'd been thinking about that. I'm going to move in. Make it truly mine. Maybe rent out a room to help with the mortgage. Live there openly, without hiding or pretending anymore. Vanessa nodded. That sounds perfect. And Claire, would you be open to rebuilding our relationship? I know I don't deserve another chance, but I'd like to try to be a better sister. Vanessa really looked at her and saw genuine remorse. This wasn't a manipulation or a ploy to get me to back down. This was my sister finally seeing me clearly. I'd be open to trying, I said carefully. But things have to be different. No more taking me for granted. No more assuming I'll always sacrifice for everyone else. No more making me invisible. Deal, I promise, Claire. I'll do better. After Vanessa left, I sat alone in my apartment feeling something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of healing. December came, bringing cold rain and the steady march toward the eviction deadline. Mom moved out 2 days before the 60-day mark, leaving no note, no goodbye, just gone. On moving day, I drove to Maple Drive with my own boxes. My lease was up and it was time to finally live in the house I'd saved. Todd and Vanessa showed up to help me move in. It was awkward at first, but we fell into a rhythm. By evening, my furniture was arranged, my clothes were hung up, and I was standing in my living room, truly my living room, looking around at what I'd built. It looks good, Vanessa said. Like it's finally becoming yours. It was always mine. I just wasn't living in it. Todd handed me a bottle of wine. Housewarming gift. Congratulations, Claire. On the house and on standing up for yourself. After they left, I walked through each room, touching the walls I'd painted, the floors I'd refinished, the fixtures I'd chosen. Every corner of this house bore my mark, my work, my sacrifice. But now it also bore my presence. I wasn't hiding anymore. Wasn't pretending. Wasn't making myself small to accommodate others. I was home. Christmas came, and I spent it alone in my house. Vanessa had invited me to join their celebration, but I declined. I needed this time to myself to figure out who I was outside the family dynamics that had defined me for so long. I made myself a nice dinner, watched old movies, and went to bed early. It was quiet and peaceful and exactly what I needed. The day after Christmas, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find my mother standing on the porch, looking older and smaller than I remembered. "Can I come in?" she asked. I almost said no. Almost closed the door, but I stepped aside and let her enter. We sat in the living room, her in the chair I'd reupholstered, me on the couch I'd bought. "This is strange," Mom said, looking around. "Being a guest in my own home. It was never your home, Mom. Not for 6 years. She flinched, but nodded. "I know. I'm starting to understand that now. What do you want?" "I wanted to see you, to talk. Vanessa said you might not be ready, but I had to try." I waited. "I read the article," Mom continued, "several times. And I've been thinking about what you said, about feeling invisible. And I'm ashamed, Claire. I'm ashamed that I didn't see what you were doing, that I took you for granted, that I made you feel less important than your sister. Why did you do it?" The question came out rawer than I intended. Why was Vanessa always the favorite? Mom was quiet for a long time. Because she reminded me of who I wanted to be. Confident, successful, effortlessly charming. And you reminded me of who I was. The practical one, the reliable one, the one who stayed home and took care of things while others got the glory. So you resented me for being like you? I think on some level, yes. And that's my failing, not yours. You deserved better, Claire. You deserved a mother who saw your worth, who celebrated your sacrifices, who made you feel valued. Tears were streaming down her face now. "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for every time I ignored you, every dinner where you felt invisible, every moment you felt less than. You're an incredible woman, and I failed to see it. I felt my own tears coming. Why didn't you ever ask about the bills, Mom? In 6 years, how did you never wonder who was paying for everything?" "Because I didn't want to know," she admitted. "I knew I couldn't afford the house. I knew someone must be helping. But asking meant acknowledging my failure, my dependence. So I just didn't ask. I took your help and convinced myself it was my own resourcefulness. That's not resourcefulness, Mom. That's delusion. I know. Believe me, I know that now. We sat in silence, the weight of years of dysfunction hanging between us. Can you forgive me? Mom asked quietly. I don't know, I answered honestly. Maybe someday. But right now, I'm still too hurt. Too angry. That's fair. More than fair. She stood up. Thank you for letting me say my piece. I won't take up any more of your time. As she walked to the door, I called out, Mom. She turned. The house you're renting, are you managing okay financially? Yes. Vanessa and Todd are helping with the rent until I get back on my feet, and I'm looking for part-time work. I won't be a burden to anyone anymore. After she left, I sat alone in my house and cried, for the relationship I'd always wanted with my mother, but never had. For the years I'd spent being invisible. For the pain of finally being seen, but at such a terrible cost. New Year's came, and with it, a fresh start. I hosted a small gathering at my house, just Rachel, Dr. Reeves, Jamal from my old mechanic days, and a few nurse friends from the hospital, people who'd supported me through the hardest months of my life. To Claire, Rachel said, raising her glass. The bravest woman I know. To standing up for yourself, Dr. Reeves added. To new beginnings, I finished. We clinked glasses, and I looked around at the faces of people who truly saw me. Not as the disappointing daughter or the invisible sister, but as Claire. Just Claire. And that was enough. 6 months later, I was planting flowers in the front garden when Vanessa's car pulled up. She'd been coming by every few weeks, slowly rebuilding our relationship. It was different now, more equal, more honest. Hey, she said, getting out with a Starbucks cup in each hand. Brought you a coffee. Thanks. We sat on the porch swing, the one I'd installed last month. Mom's doing better, Vanessa said. She started volunteering at the senior center, made some friends. One thing being on her own has been good for her. Good. She asked about you. Wanted to know if you'd be willing to have lunch sometime. I thought about it. The anger had faded over the months, replaced by something softer, but still cautious. Maybe, not yet, but maybe soon. That's fair. We rocked on the swing, drinking our coffee in comfortable silence. I'm proud of you, Vanessa said, for all of this, for standing up for yourself, for not backing down. Yeah? Yeah, you taught me something important, Claire, about boundaries and self-respect. I've been applying it to my own life, saying no to projects that don't serve me, setting limits with clients. It's made a difference, I smiled. Good. You deserve to stand up for yourself too. We both do. After Vanessa left, I went back to my gardening. The late spring sun was warm on my back, and the soil was rich and dark under my hands. I was planting roots literally and metaphorically in the house that was finally truly mine. My phone buzzed. A text from Todd. Asterisk, Vanessa told me you might be open to lunch with your mom soon. Just wanted to say, no pressure. Take whatever time you need. You've earned it. Asterisk, I texted back. Asterisk, thanks Todd, for everything. Asterisk, asterisk, you deserve all of it, Claire. Don't ever forget that. Asterisk, that evening I sat on my back porch with a glass of wine. Looking out at the yard, I was slowly transforming. The house was quiet around me, not the lonely quiet of my old apartment, but the peaceful quiet of home. I thought about that Sunday dinner months ago, when Mom had walked past me 3 times without serving me, when I'd finally reached my breaking point. Serving that eviction notice had been the hardest thing I'd ever done. It had cost me my relationship with my mother, nearly destroyed my connection with my sister, and turned my life upside down. But it had also saved me. I was no longer invisible, no longer the forgotten daughter, the disappointing one, the sister who didn't measure up. I was Claire Whitmore, a woman who'd stood up for herself when it mattered most. I owned my house. I lived my truth. I set my boundaries. And for the first time in my 31 years, I was truly free. The sun set over Portland, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, and I sat in my home, my house, my sanctuary, my hard-won prize, and felt something I'd never fully felt before. Peace. My family had only served my sister at those dinners, treating me like I didn't exist. So I'd served them the eviction notice, and in doing so, I'd finally served myself, the respect, the acknowledgement, the life I deserved. It wasn't a perfect ending. Mom and I were still healing, still finding our way back to each other. The community whispers hadn't completely died down. Some people still thought I was heartless. I knew the truth. And more importantly, I'd learned to value myself enough to demand that others see it too. That was worth everything.